World War II, also called Second World War, conflict that involved virtually every part of the world during the years 1939-45. The principal belligerents were the Axis powers, Germany, Italy, and Japan, and the Allies, France, Great Britain, the United States, the Soviet Union, and, to a lesser extent, China. The war was in many respects a continuation, after an uneasy 20-year hiatus, of the disputes left unsettled by World War I. The 40,000, 50,000 deaths incurred in World War II make it the bloodiest conflict, as well as the largest war in history. Atomic bombing of Hiroshima. Along with World War I, World War II was one of the great watersheds of 20th century geopolitical history. It resulted in the extension of the Soviet Union's power to nations of Eastern Europe, enabled a communist movement to eventually achieve power in China, and marked the decisive shift of power in the world away from the states of Western Europe and toward the United States and the Soviet Union. Axis initiative and Allied reaction. The outbreak of war. By the early part of 1939, the German dictator Adolf Hitler had become determined to invade and occupy Poland. Poland, for its part, had guarantees of French and British military support should it be attacked by Germany. Hitler intended to invade Poland anyway, but first he had to neutralize the possibility that the Soviet Union would resist the invasion of its western neighbor. Secret negotiations led on August 23-24 to the signing of the German-Soviet Non-Aggression Pact in Moscow. In a secret protocol of this pact, the Germans and the Soviets agreed that Poland should be divided between them, with the western third of the country going to Germany and the eastern two-thirds being taken over by the USSR. Having achieved this cynical agreement, the other provisions of which stupefied Europe, even without divulgence of the secret protocol, Hitler thought that Germany could attack Poland with no danger of Soviet or British intervention and gave orders for the invasion to start on August 26th. News of the signing on August 25th of a formal treaty of mutual assistance between Great Britain and Poland to supersede a previous, though temporary, agreement caused him to postpone the start of hostilities for a few days. He was still determined, however, to ignore the diplomatic efforts of the Western powers to restrain him. Finally, at 12:40 p.m. on August 31st, 1939, Hitler ordered hostilities against Poland to start at 4:45. World War II had begun. Forces and resources of the European combatants, 1939 Adolf Hitler. In September 1939, the Allies, namely Great Britain, France, and Poland, were together superior in industrial resources, population, and military manpower. But the German military, or Wehrmacht, because of its armament, training, doctrine, discipline, and fighting spirit, was the most efficient and effective fighting force for its size in the world. The index of military strength in September 1939 was the number of divisions that each nation could mobilize. Against Germany's 100 infantry divisions and 6 armored divisions, France had 90 infantry divisions in metropolitan France, Great Britain had 10 infantry divisions, and Poland had 30 infantry divisions, 12 cavalry brigades, and 1 armored brigade. Poland had also 30 reserve infantry divisions, but these could not be mobilized quickly. A division contained from 12,000 to 25,000 men. It was the qualitative superiority of the German infantry divisions and the number of their armored divisions that made the difference in 1939. The firepower of a German infantry division far exceeded that of a French, British, or Polish division. The standard German division included 442 machine guns, 1 to 35 mortars, 72 anti-tank guns, and 24 howitzers. Allied divisions had a firepower only slightly greater than that of World War. Germany had 6 armored divisions in September 1939. The Allies, though they had a large number of tanks, had no armored divisions at that time. He 6 armored, or Panzer, divisions of the Wehrmacht comprised some 2,400 tanks. And though Germany would subsequently expand its tank forces during the first years of the war, it was not the number of tanks that Germany had. The Allies had almost as many in September 1939, but the fact of their being organized into divisions and operated as such that was to prove decisive. In accordance with the doctrines of General Heinz Guderian, the German tanks were used in massed formations in conjunction with motorized artillery to punch holes in the enemy line and to isolate segments of the enemy, which were then surrounded and captured by motorized German infantry divisions, while the tanks ranged forward to repeat the process. Deep drives into enemy territory by panzer divisions were thus followed by mechanized infantry. East Africa Wavell, the success of whose North African strategy had been sacrificed to Churchill's recurrent fantasy of creating a Balkan front against Germany, Greece in 1941 was scarcely less disastrous for the British than the Dardanelles in 1915. Nevertheless enjoyed one definitive triumph before Churchill, doubly chagrined at having lost Cyrenaica for Greece's sake and Greece for no advantage at all, removed him, in the summer of 1941, from his command in the Middle East. That triumph was the destruction of Italian East Africa and the elimination, thereby, of any threat to the Suez Canal from the south or to Kenya from the north. In August 1940, Italian forces mounted a full-scale offensive and overran British Somaliland. Wavell, however, was already assured of the collaboration of the former Ethiopian Emperor Haile Selassie in raising the Ethiopians in patriotic revolt against the Italians to this revised timetable. But the 5 weeks delay shortened the time for carrying out the invasion of the USSR, and was to prove the more serious, because in 1941 the Russian winter would arrive earlier than usual. Nevertheless, Hitler and the heads of the Oberkommando des Heere, OKH, or German Army High Command, namely the Army Commander-in-Chief Walter von Brauchitsch and the Army General Staff, Chief Franz Halder, were convinced that the Red Army could be defeated in 2 or 3 months, and that by the end of October, the Germans would have conquered the whole European part of Russia and Ukraine, west of a line stretching from Archangel to Astrakhan. The invasion of the Soviet Union was given the code name Operation Barbarossa.